Really? You think the guy that says...
I said, well, let's see how we say that. I said, Minifin.
Interesting. I don't hear too many people say that. Usually if I hear somebody say...
Trump is a master 5D chess player.
I get this sound. Yeah.
So let me explain what that plop plop's all about.
That's the brain plops. Welcome to the live cast, the pod stream. Welcome. We have so much news to cover tonight. There's really an abundance of news. The news gods were faithful after I did my news dance this weekend, just praying for some news to come and grace us all. And I must say, this news harvest is a fruitful one. We'll be dining on the news for seasons to come. So I know times are hard. Well, not for some people, but for most of us, 86% of us say the cost of groceries is stressful. So for those who are having hard times right now, let me just say my news dance gave way and the news rained down on me today. I have a abundant harvest of news, and this news we will feast on the news for many seasons to come. I'm excited.
Don't take Tylenol.
All right. It's kind of weird. I don't know why you'd say that, but David Cross, great comic, amazing comic across the board. If you've never seen his stand-up, go watch it. Do yourself a favor. Go watch some David Cross. You might know him as Job from The Blue Man. Nope. Arrested Development. And he was a Never Nude, and he was a great character in that. You might know him from, what was it, Mr. Show Business? I forget. I didn't watch that one. But David Cross has been in a ton of stuff, and finally, what did he say?
Your brain's cooked.
No, he didn't say that. He said, my thoughts on the Riyadh Comedy Festival. He said, I've been asked my opinion on the Riyadh Comedy Festival, and rather than answering the same question 23 times, I'll just put it out here. So I have his blog, a link down below. We're going to go over that. We're going to go over the 100% tariff on movies. Just when you thought they couldn't tariff anything else and make anything else more expensive, get ready for your movies to cost more. It's going to suck. Just when we started going, just when Nicole Kidman finished those commercials and asked us to return to the theaters, the movie theaters, just when it happened. Now Donald Trump goes and tariffs the movies. And you'd be surprised. I know a lot of people think all the movies are made in America, but I have some lists. We're going to go through some lists. If you like X-Men, Suicide Squad, The Revenant, Mean Girls, American Psycho, Good Will Hunting, much of the movie was set in Toronto or shot in Toronto. Mark Damon, I am disappointed in you. Brokeback Mountain, one of Donald Trump and Jeffrey Epstein's favorite movies. All those. American movies filmed in the United Kingdom. Harry Potter. Was Harry Potter an American movie? Did anybody think Harry Potter, Hogwarts was in America? I never at one point thought that. Eyes Wide Shut. Gravity. I thought that was filmed in space. Now I'm starting to question Google. Mission Impossible, the Star Wars franchise. Many films in the iconic sci-fi saga have been shot in the UK. Last Letter from Your Lover, don't know that one. American movies filmed in New Zealand. Lord of the Rings, Hobbit, Avatar, The Last Sandwich, I think that's what it's called. King Kong, Peter's Dragon, or Pete's Dragon. If you know him well enough, you call him Pete. Other notable examples, Midsommar. I didn't watch Midsommar because I already knew about the Udenstip, Duderstoop, the Kudestap, the Kudisblut. I already knew about that, so I started watching like 3 minutes of it. I was like, oh, they're going to do the Cliff Jump thing. Yeah, whatever. I love you, Scandinavia. So I didn't think it was a horror film. In fact, if you watch, what is it called? Is that Viking show on Netflix, the comedy one? It's like The Office. I forget what it's called. Hold on, I'll look it up. Hold on. Norseman. If you've never seen that, go watch Norseman. Absolute one of my favorite shows. But in Norseman, first episode, they go do the Jumperstoop, the Jumpastup, the old the Jumba, whatever it is. I love that language. I can't speak it, and I've tried. But that just dookie, you know. Absolutely love that language. The Swedes, the Nords, the Danes, the whatever. So Donald Trump, we're going to get into the story, but I just want to go through some movies. Dark Knight Rises, love that one. Raiders of the Found Ark, Raiders of the Lost Ark, that's what it's called. Zero Dark 30. All these movies, 100% tariff now. And we'll go over some more. Timothy, good to see you. Hit that like and subscribe and keep it honorable. Francis, hey, how you been, Francis? Talk about the woke right. All right, Nick, you and your peely. What is that, Clippy? I like that little protest. I see a lot of people with that. Jacob, good to see you. We'll get to the woke right. We're going to go through some meme news. I think I'm going to read this for you before I get to the woke right. And just because I love you guys so much, this article on The Atlantic, they try to paywall you. I'll give The Atlantic this. They don't have many pop-ups. Like, it's a pretty clean site. They do have ads, you know. Like, if you've been here before, you know I absolutely hate that they paywall you to get the news. When I'm like, well, what is this? You know, clearly this all-new Lincoln is not paying me to be on this website. So why do you need me to pay you if the new Navigator or whatever that is paid you? You know, I think it's stupid. I think it's another grift. But because I love you so much, I actually screenshotted the whole article, and most of the article, and we'll read it together. Not the whole thing, but we're going to have to talk about the tariffs. Trump, again, promises 100% tariffs on movies. You know, just when you thought this absolute Nepo spoiled brat baby that obviously didn't rub the tanner all over his face. What is he signaling for the waiter at the Cheesecake Factory? My God, man. Either that or he's gotten so fat he can't make a fist. It's one of the two. But just when he thought he couldn't make anything else more expensive, he goes and says, I'm going to put 100% tariff on movies made outside America. Maybe he thinks all these movies... Like, I thought Good Will Hunting was mostly shot in Boston. Turns out Toronto, that's what Google told me. They couldn't have done it in some spots, because in some spots, I know those locations. But I wonder if Donald Trump thinks, you know, like The Office was actually shot in Pennsylvania. Hint, hint, if you watch The Office, there's palm trees in the background. That's not Pennsylvania. And he's just, you know, this is like the last grasp of a desperate, petty tyrant, not titan. The only thing titan about him is his hunger to make our lives miserable. I found this meme. We'll go through some meme news, and then we'll talk a little more about the tariffs. Or I'll give you the comedian David Cross gave a statement on Riyadh, which I completely agree with. I mean, I've been saying this stuff for a while, but it's good to see David Cross come out. But let's go through some meme news. We gotta be chop today. Blake, 3 likes. Wow, maybe it's your content. Why are you here, Blake? You nerd. Get out of here. Go back to Tim Pool's podcast. Get out of here, Blake. Nobody likes you. Nobody likes you, Blake. I got 4 more likes than you do, buddy. Go to your live stream where you can go, guys. I know everything's more expensive, but we need to suffer for our country. John F. Kennedy once said, "Don't ask what your country can do for you. That's socialism." Okay, farmers in Arkansas, stop asking for bailouts. But ask, how much tax dollars can we spend on hiding the Epstein files? Because there's nothing in them. And if you want those, then you're stupid. That's Blake's live stream. Thank you. It was a great impression. By the way, I do have my deepfake Google goggles. These are not for sale. I found them in the parking lot of an Arby's. I was walking outside. I picked up these glasses. I said, oh, those look amazing. And I put them on. I said, well, hot damn if I don't look great. But then I realized I could identify any deepfakes, any chat GPTs, any black cats. I could identify an IHOP within 500 meters. A lot of things I could do with these glasses, but I will be utilizing those from time to time because there's a bunch of nerds in the chat. A bunch of nerds that are like, guys, don't criticize the government. The government's cool. Look at that. Look at Fatty Tumbleaddy. Look at. I mean, that's how you do. You guys thought you tanned your whole face? No. You just do. It's like, maybe he's in MMR 13, that new gang that he talked about. He said, we got to break up MMR 13 the other day. We watched the live stream here when he couldn't pronounce this word, right?
I said, well, let's see how we say that. I said, Minifin.
Okay, stupid. You almost got it, buddy. And it's funny that that guy who pronounced that mocked this guy.
Now the poor guy, you got to see this guy. Oh, I don't know what I said. I don't remember.
I said, well, let's see how we say that. I said, Minifin.
Ah, you got to see the poor guy. You know what he said. He said, I said, oh, Madafan. But yeah, these people are worshiping the orange turd. And we're just going to have to, call them out. All right, guys. We're going through some meme news. Did you see this? The day after the Michigan church pew, Republicans are silent after learning the shooter was a MAGA extremer. No investigations of Trump supporters, is no national conversations about the rights of cisgender. The silence is deafening. It is kind of crazy, but it's a very one-sided, make all my political enemies, make them all illegal. It's very Tricky Dick Nixon, if you're aware. Old Tricky Dick. He was president back in the 70s. And what did he do to criminalize his dissenters? He made cannabis illegal, in which we all know it's a medicine. Even the government knows. They have a patent on it. Look it up. Let's see some more meme news. Oh, by the way, I opened up a shop because this turd, Chris Yoon, who's an absolute grifter, was on YouTube.
Trump is a master 5D chess player.
That's what he said about Donald Trump retweeting that fake AI video of him today and then deleting it. And I learned that Chris Yoon, we talked about this earlier. I'll show you. Chris Yoon is an absolute grifter. This is Chris Yoon. He said this about Donald Trump, being tricked by AI.
Trump is a master 5D chess player.
That's what he said. Chris, if you think he's like a hardcore MAGA, well, he's not. He left the United States to go to Korea. And at the end of his video that I happened to see, and I'll never get the time of my life back, he talked about his campaign that he's got, and he's raising funds. And I said, oh, that's interesting. Why didn't he say what the funds are for? So I go to find out, and he's raising $70,000. What kind of mission is he on? My Christ. Well, it turns out, no, he just wants you to pay for his living costs, his continued education, his partial salaries for his teams, miscellaneous investments, and $10,000 in funds to give back. Call me naive, but if you're asking people for $10,000 to give it back to them, how about they just keep it? And we cut out the fees. It's amazing, these MAGA grifters, man. So in honor of the MAGA grifters, I started a shop where I make a small profit, but you get something. You can see I have the Save the Earth, Tax Billionaires, and down below it says if they can't afford it, maybe they're living outside of their means. And then I have a Tax Wealth Not Work t-shirt. So these people, man. Unlike Chris Yoon, I'm not saying, hey, just my campaign is so I don't have to work. Notice how he didn't have any healthcare bills on there, because I'm pretty sure South Korea has universal healthcare. But yeah, Chris Yoon wants you to just pay for him to live and promote so he can just make YouTube videos where he says
Trump is a master 5D chess player.
Jesus. This is who he thinks is a master 5D chess player.
I said, well, let's see how we say that. I said, Minifin.
Now, I don't know about you, but hearing that, I don't, go, wow, the intellect. Noam Chomsky. He's a regular Noam Chomsky. All right. I don't think anyone knows what the fifth dimension is. Long bong. That's what I was saying. I did it live earlier, and I was like, fifth dimension. This is not. Think about the only time you've heard people say, he's a 5D chess player. Nobody says that about Noam Chomsky. Who else is a smart person? Nobody says that about that dude that talks about the planets. I forget his name. Nobody said that about Stephen Hawking. Nobody says that about, I don't know who else. We have no more intellects. But nobody says 5D chess player. You know who says it? People that go on Joe Rogan's show. Chris Yoon. People who are trying to hype up somebody who probably can't say acetaminophen.
Well, let's see how we say that. Acetaminophen.
It's amazing. The only time you break out, I want you to think about the smartest person you know. Smartest friend. Have you ever said he's a 5G chess player? No, it's a grift term. It was invented because the fifth dimension doesn't exist. But it was invented so, people could be like, oh, he's so smart, you can't wrap your mind around it. But really what they're saying is he's so smart, it doesn't exist. He's not that smart. Let's see. All right, so before we get to the woke right, and before we get to the movies that are going to cost more, I hope not Zootopia 2. I want to see that one. I wish they would make a Good Dinosaur 2. Anybody see The Good Dinosaur? Best Disney movie next to Robin Hood. Best one. But if you don't know, all your favorite comics right now are out in Riyadh, unless you like Joe Rogan. I technically don't classify him as a comic. He's more of a joke thief. But Mark Normand, Bob Segura, I don't know who that is, Pete Davidson, who his dad died in 9/11. I don't know who that is. Aziz, Chris Stefano, Dave Chappell Roan, Andrew Schultz, Louis Keep Your Pants On CK, Chris Tucker, really? Kevin Hart, that guy might have gotten surprised. Jimmy Carr, Joe Coy, Billy William Burbs, Gabriel Fluffy Lee Iglesias, Joe Menskowskowitz, Whitney Houston, and Joe Coy. There's a bunch of Joes, whatever. And then a couple of puppets. What is that? Is that like a podcast emblem? But all the comics are there. Joe Rogan is a dude, Timothy. My Christ, Timothy. Maybe, Timothy, you've never watched a Joe Rogan comedy special. You really should. You should go check out Elephant Graveyard's video on Joe Rogan, because they do the clipping for you where you can see where Joe Rogan stole jokes from Brendan Schwab. And you can see that, Joe's comedy, after 6 years, you'd figure, oh, he's written some gems. He's talked to a lot of people. He's experienced a lot of things. He's got some gems. And it's like, when I started stand-up, it's like the old reliable jokes. You go to like, I don't know, the low-hanging fruit stuff. So I would ask you to revisit, as an adult. Yeah. Okay. So all the comics, they're out in Riyadh. If you don't know, the comedy mecca is Riyadh, I'm guessing. I don't know. I thought it was like New York or LA. And all these comics are there being paid from anywhere $300,000 to $1 million for one festival, couple of weeks, and it's with Saudi blood money. We went over all the laws. They're run by Sharia law, which is Islamic law, religious law. They have religious police. Women have very limited rights. They have decency laws. They have decency language laws. You can't trash the state. It's very much what Trump wants it to be. That's why I call the Southern Republicans the white Taliban, because they very much want a Sharia law in Christian denomination. They want to rule, but actually they really want Jewish law, because they don't want Jesus's laws were like love God and your neighbor. Simple. If you could just love your neighbor and be like, hey man, you look like you need healthcare and not go into debt. You would like to get more educated? You look hungry. Let me feed you. Like all the things Jesus did. So they don't. They want like the old Deuteronomy, Leviticus, Ezekiel, Isaiah. You know, they want the Old Testament, which is Jewish law. Okay, let's be fair. So they're Christians wanting Jewish law, white guys mimicking the Middle East. But in the Middle East, you can't draw a picture of Muhammad. You can't say nothing about the government, the crown prince, all these language restrictions. Now, I don't know if you guys are unaware of what comedy does. It sometimes pushes the bounds. It goes places that can be a little taboo. That's what some of these people, Jimmy Carr, I watched a whole segment of his stand-up where he says, someday you'll talk about this and it will be illegal. You'll say, I saw a guy standing on stage saying words about this. Like, he was very proud to be saying shocking things. He looks like he's shocked. Look at him. You know, this guy, shocking things. Ooh, they say crazy stuff. Just look at that face. You know, they're saying wild things, guys. You know, and you're like, you know, you'd probably get your hand cut off or go to the religious jail for a little while if you did that. And you weren't being paid to whitewash their history. So it's interesting. Comedy is free speech. It's an example of the existence of it. I would agree with that. But they don't really have free speech in Saudi Arabia. They just don't. It's not like my opinion. I did a whole live stream last week on it. You can go look it up in my live videos. I brought up the laws. I brought up the Saudi.net, SaudiArabia.net, so you could see if you're traveling over there, you got to be, you know, you can't be wearing a Dick's Last Resort t-shirt in public or Big Dicks. Remember those from the 90s? You could probably wear a no fear one as long as it's not like a midriff, fellas, you know. I know Joe Rogan likes those belly tanks, but you can't be dressing provocative or talking provocative. So it was a little weird to see all these guys that, you know, like Chris Tucker, he's got that Rush Hour money. Dave Chappelle's got that Dave Chappelle money, you know. Pete Davidstone, he's got that SNL money. And those are the guys that like funded 9/11 that are paying him now. And his dad died 9/11. So it's very confusing, you know. Stephen Underwood, why would Saudis want to laugh anyway? I don't, listen, there's so many questions I have outside of like the moral, ethical thing of this. Like, do they have a translator? Do most understand the nuance and inflection and tone of American comedy? You know, if it's dry and sarcastic. I have so many questions. Are they going to do local bits? Are they going to try to go a couple weeks early so Bill Burr can walk around and be like, hey, the sports team, hey, whatever guy. I don't know. So many questions. But they couldn't film it. I was looking to bring you guys some kind of audio video from there. I haven't found any because the people that I saw that were going there on TikTok, they had to lock their phones in a bag when they went in. So most of the people speak English. Yeah, but just because they speak it doesn't mean that they necessarily understand the colloquialisms. Is that the word? Is that the correct term? It's just a weird thing. Again, and remember, I want you to think in terms of like, these are American comics who complained about cancel culture, push the edge, complain that the government has a list, YouTube has a list of words you can't say. Like, I want you to think of it in that context. Like, at some point, all of these people have complained about, you know, oh, you can't say this anymore. And they're going to a place where legally you can't say certain things. Like, just, they have a religious police. It's Sharia law. So it just doesn't make sense. You know, and that's why I'm wondering, like, is there a person on stage like, hey, you gotta ease up on this bit, you know? Like, are they gonna get beheaded or is they gonna go to... I don't know. I have so many questions. And I'm sure they did too before they went. Or maybe they didn't. But either way, we're spending too much time asking questions. Right now, we just need to read. We need to read. That's what, listen, whenever you have a question, read. So this is my thoughts on the Riyadh Comedy Festival by David Cross. Link in the description. He says, hold on, let me start here. You've been asking for my opinion on the Riyadh Comedy Festival. Actually, I'm just going to read it to you. I'm not going to read it through here. So you follow along. I've been asking my opinion on the Riyadh Comedy Festival, and rather than answering the same question 23 times, I'll just put it out here. Oh, I should preface this with the fact that I was not offered the gig, but it should go without saying that there's not enough money for me to help these depraved, awful people put a fun face on their crimes against humanity. Here goes. What do you think I think? I'm disgusted and deeply disappointed in this whole gross thing. That people I admire with unarguable talent would condone this totalitarian fiefdom for what? A fourth house, a boat, more sneakers? That was one of my tweets on social media. Exactly that. I was like, what? They need a second home money? Like, I don't get it. But greed, you can't satiate greed. It's why we have people dying. 65,000 Americans every year die from lack of adequate health care. And we have the healthcare. It's just corporations, insurance corporations gatekeep it from us. Every other country has universal healthcare. It's a right in every other country, not here. So greed, it's good old American greed. We can never take seriously again anything these comedians complain about. I agree. Unless it's complaining that we don't support enough torture and mass executions of journalists and LGBTQT peace activists here in the States, or that we don't terrorize enough Americans by flying planes into our buildings. I mean, that's it. You have a funny bit about how you don't like Yankee candles or airport lounges? Okay, great. But you're cool with Merck or the public caning of women who were, and by having the audacity to were guilty of engaging in adultery. Got any bits on that? Again, this is David Cross's website where he commented on the Riyadh Comedy Festival. These are some of my heroes, in all caps. We're here, if you're following along. Now look, some of you folks don't stand for anything, so you don't have any credibility to lose. But my God, Dave and Louie and Bill and Jim, clearly you guys don't give a shit about what the rest of us think. But how can any of us take any of you seriously ever again? All of your bitching about cancel culture and freedom of speech and all that shit, done. You don't get to talk about it ever again. By now we've all seen the contract you had to sign. You're performing for literally the most oppressive regime on earth. They have slaves, for F's sake. I don't understand how being rich can make someone such a whore. Greed. David Cross, if I could just interject, it's greed. Poor people desperate to improve their family's lives. Sure. Still not acceptable, but I can understand the desperation to put food on the table. But this? I mean, it's not like this is some commercial for a wireless service or a betting app. Which, if I have to see Kevin Hart in another betting app ad, oh my Christ. These people how many jet skis do you need? I figure one and you're happy. How many do they need? This is truly the definition of blood money. You might as well do commercials for Lockheed Martin or Cyclone B. Hey guys, this is Bill Burr. Welcome to the Monday Morning Podcast. This episode is brought to you by Lockheed Martin. David Cross, he's a national gem. Holy shnikes! I remember the backlash. Hold on, let's get here. I remember the backlash I got for appearing in Alvin and the Chipmunks. God bless David Cross. God, keep David Cross bringing us comedy for many, many centuries to come. He is such a national treasure. He is such a gem, and he brings my heart joy and happiness. And his movies, like Alvin and the Chipmunks, bring my children music that they won't stop singing after the movie's over. And still, I love him. In the name of the Father, the Mother, the Sister, the Brother, hallelujah, and also with you. He was great in Alvin and the Chipmunks, by the way. You say what you want. I've seen that movie. I've seen The Squeakquel. I've seen it. He's great. You would have thought that I had taken money from a bunch of people responsible for funding Al Qaeda. Again, this is David Cross's website, link down below. Unless you open your sets with, quote, this is dedicated to all the widows and widowers and kids, Stephen David Stone, Peter David Stone, his dad died in 9/11. So again, David says, unless you open your sets with this, or quote, this is dedicated to all the widows and widowers and kids orphaned by this bloodthirsty, oppressive regime, especially from the zany shenanigans on 9/11. Never forget, mother. All right, so it's great to be here. I'm going to be killing it tonight, but in the good way, straight up, no MBS. Then, end of quote, then your hypocrisy will never not be noted. David. P.S. For anyone who wants to actually spend their money on something worthwhile, the Human Rights Foundation does amazing work. Learn more and donate at hrf.org. Ah, God bless him. Oh, that was some more meme news. God bless him. What do you guys think? What do you guys think about David Cross's blog post commentary opinion on the Riyadh Comedy Festival? I swear to God, I only know one thing about David Stone. Patrick David Stone. Where is he? There he is. You know him because he's like the shy guy who just, was always depressed. Couldn't be on an episode. Joe Franco the First doesn't want to have a conversation. That's okay. You don't have to be here. I treat you like a regime. I'll treat you like Trump treats anybody who critiques him. Crash. The fact that anyone here is looking at comedians as beacons of truth and morality is absurd. The comics getting money. Well, Crash, I would say, hey, what's up, Curtis? Good to see you. I would say a lot of people look at comedians, especially in a society that values free speech, as the ones that push the envelope. They push the boundaries. They make light and fun of taboo things. They talk about the things that most people normally don't, so they really do. I don't know if you heard of George Carlin. I'd hate to think somebody doesn't know who George Carlin is, but a lot of people look to him as a great commentator on society and politics, and I look at him, and I know many other people I respect look at him as almost a philosopher, so highly disagree. Dawn, not gonna lie, I saw you praying for him on my feed and thought he was in a car accident or something. No, he's safe. The Saudis might be out after him now, but he's safe. He's safe here in America. Zone Cammy, comedians are important and very often smarter than politicians. Very often. I'm going to be very honest with you. It's not too tough to be smarter than this politician.
I said, well, let's see how we say that. I said, Minifin.
Holy dumb. Belial the North. Comedians' routines are an amazing indicator of a country's freedoms in regards to speech. Agreed. And that's why you saw when a very tame comic, not late night show comic, I guess comic, because whatever, a satirist. When you saw Jimmy Kimmel getting silenced, the government, the FCC threatening him because he was, dare you make fun of the president in America, it showed our freedom of speech, our First Amendment being infringed upon. Spell it out, Don. Come on, Donnie. Elon said comedy is legal again.
Legalize comedy.
He did. That is him. That's him saying it. But we also know nowadays,
Everything's computer.
everything is computer. So did the computer not legalize the comedy? Andrew Irwin. Let's hope at least some of these comedians step outside the box and talk about the real they're there. None of them will. I have the same hope, Andrew. I 100% have the same hope. But when you're getting paid 375,000 or 1.6 million, which I heard that's what Dave's getting, you're not going to. You wouldn't leave the country. And that's like not a joke. I don't have the slides with me. They're too far back, but I took photos because I don't think I remember when I was moving around the country a lot, I would make these jokes or references to certain things, and I didn't realize how regional they were. I thought, oh, everybody knows what hood milk is, or I thought everybody knows what this is. And you come to find out, oh, no, I lived in a little bubble, and the more I moved and the more I met more people, I got outside that bubble. So a lot of Americans think like, oh, man, speech is cool everywhere, but they don't understand that in the Middle East, they have religious police. Kind of what like the Republicans want here. They want religious policing. They have this thing called Sharia law. That's Islamic law. That's why women are covered up. They don't have many rights. They can't leave the house without a male guardian. You can't speak ill of the regime. All these things. Maniscalco, that's what his name is. Manny Maniscalco. Not funny at all. No. I mean, and listen, everyone's gauge on comedy is different, I really don't understand why SNL figure Pete Davidson is there, but, everybody, maybe he's going to do an SNL sketch. I don't get it. No religious police, no fascists. So I wanted to bring you that. And if you want to read David Cross, who, God bless him. He's such a treasure, not just for Alvin and the Chipmunks and the Squeakquel, but for his comedy. If you've never seen his comedy, he's one of the best comics out right now. He's not like a Joe Rogan, he didn't take any of his comedy jokes from Brendan Schwab. He's not humping a chair or a stool. I can't believe Joe Rogan still does that, I can't believe Joe Rogan thinks he's a comedian. Because he was anointed by Mitzi. So funny. Anyways, we're going to talk about, I just joined, bro. Nasty Bronin. No bikinis in public. That's correct. Sorry, wherever you are. Yeah, if you're fascinated, listen, look into it. If you're fascinated what Sharia law is, go look it up. You talk a little out the pocket, you speak sideways out your mouth to cut your hand off. Jeb, how are you? I see the new psych meds for your psychiatrist prescribed you are not working. They're working fine, man. Oh, I forgot. Jeb is a fascist. He loves that Donald Trump will not release the Epstein files. He's a big fan of, where is it? This. Donald Trump, Jeffrey Epstein. Everybody welcome Jeb. He's one of the guys that's like, guys, I just trust my friend in the government. And Donald has no photos with Jeffrey Epstein. They didn't even know each other. So keep those communities unsafe, Jeb. You're doing Satan's work, buddy. You're doing Satan's work. Zone. Sharia law apply differently to each country that has it. Yeah. But it's a religious law set. That's all you need to know. Bilal the North. Release the files. Yes. Who wouldn't release the files? If you're not in them, if you're not worried about them, if you want to protect the kids and the survivors and make sure everybody that was in them is held accountable, you would release them. But we got people in this country like Jeb who's like, we're not releasing them. Forget about it. And then Jeb calls himself a stupid wakeling, and lashes himself on the back while he's muzzled and, probably getting walked by his dog walker. I don't know what these freaks do. Hey, what's up, President Raygood? You missed it. We just read. It's fascinating. It is in the description below. This is David Cross, comedian David Cross's thoughts on the Riyadh Comedy Festival. We just read that. Let's go through a little more meme news for everybody that's here. I just saw this announced tonight, 2027. Homer's coming back for seconds. Let me just tell you, I hate that Marvel and Disney did this thing where they're like, all right, the lineup for the next 45 years is going to be Wolverine 6 in 2038, Wolverine 8 in 2040. Like, if it's in 2027, we don't need a photo. That's great. You use Canva, you made a meme, that's great. Save it, okay? We don't need this. This is stupid. I hate that movie theaters now like have teasers to the movie trailers. They have teasers to the teaser trailer. They're announcing stuff like years before it's even, the script's not done, and they're like, let's make a image for it. It's like, Christ. Oh, speaking of. Some more meme news. This was in The Chaser from 2022. Jesus struggling to remember when exactly he told followers to bully trans kids. A lot of people confusing Jesus' words lately. Also, if you're a fan of Ariana Grande, this was in her thing today. I don't follow her, but I've seen it online. And I'm sure there are some Ariana Grandes. What do you call them? Areolas? What do you call the Ariana Grande fans? Areolas? I don't know. I don't know what they're called. They're not called Swifties. She said, I want to check in with Trump voters. I have one very genuine question. It's been 250 days. Has it? It feels like 2,000. Now that immigrants have been violently torn from their families, and communities have been destroyed, now that trans people have been blamed for virtually everything and live in fear, now that free speech is on the brink of collapse for all of us, has your life gotten better? Have your groceries gotten cheaper? Has your health insurance premium gone down? Has your work-life balance improved? Can you take a vacation yet? Are you happier? Has the widespread suffering of others paid off for you in the way he promised it would, or are you still waiting? I didn't think she was that keen, but this is exactly what I say. I've said this for a while. They don't care if things get cheaper, you can take a vacation if your insurance gets down. They only care about the widespread suffering of others. That was like Charlie Kirk's whole thing. He advocated for the suffering of others because he didn't think it would ever happen to him. He advocated for making everyone's life more miserable than it already is. He was like a less than a status quoer. He wanted to go backwards. He wanted, to bring things back. And that's exactly what it is. Like, it doesn't matter if any of this changes, because what they receive the endorphin hit on is seeing other people suffer. That's it. That's a repost. She's not that keen. And I would believe that. Tufa 5. Sorry, don't want to confuse you with Tufa 6. But I would absolutely believe that. He says because she isn't that keen. I wasn't going to read that part, but she just didn't come off that keen to me. But I don't know much about her, and I'm not gonna do any digging. I don't care to know. All right, did you see this? The New York Post going for a slam dunk. Socialist Zoran Mandani's filthy rich parents rent posh Ugandan estate with monkeys, lake views on Airbnb. And someone had to come in and remind the New York Post it would be wild if you lived in a resort called Mar-a-Lago and partied with a PDF file billionaire, right? It's amazing, because this guy wants to help the working class people. Help the people. Try something New York's never done, and help actual people that are struggling. They'll go with the full-on force of the corporate lamestream media, including Joe Slogan, Polio Rogan. He is mainstream now. Hate to break it to you guys. The simulacrum can't shatter. But, we currently have a PDF file billionaire best friend living at a private estate all the time, not even an Airbnb. Also in the news from today, Engadget reports that Disney reportedly lost 1.7 million paid subscribers this week after suspending Kimmel. Interesting. Okay. Oh, wait. Before we get into it, Donald Trump, this guy. This guy right here. This guy right here. You see the paint? The tan lines? That's a normal tan line, How did he fall asleep? Did he fall asleep and they just said, put the tanner on him. He's got to go out. He looks like he just woke up. My Christ. But he promised to put 100% tariff on movies made outside of America. So I wanted to show you guys some of the movies made outside of America. Avatar 2, Skyfall, Inception, Eyes Wide Shut, Fast and Furious, Last Samurai, Tons of movies. Wicked. Look at this. Deadpool, Wolverine, Gladiator 2, American Psycho, Brokeback Mountain, Shape of Water, Revenant, Hairspray, Rambo. The upcoming Spider-Man film. Well, they were filming in Scotland. I seen a behind-the-scenes clip. Them filming in Scotland. Highlander, The Brutalist. So, I don't know how that makes. Is there any MAGA in the chat? Is there any MAGA in the chat? Can you explain how tariffing movies makes everybody have health care or better working conditions? Can anybody explain that to me? Anybody? And for people that say the borders are closed, the borders have always been closed. They're never open. Have you ever lived on a border? I've lived on a border. I've crossed through the border many times. They're never open. Hollywood tariffs, who cares? God. Come back tomorrow. It's just exhausting. These people are like, who cares? It doesn't affect me. Who cares? Well, it will. You don't watch any movies? You don't watch any movies? If they become 100% more expensive, do you think Hollywood's going to absorb that? Do you think they'll keep making movies? Do you think, now we're going to have CGI backgrounds? It's so funny. Molly and Boo Boo, you clearly don't work sitting in my chat. Tariffs get paid by the end user, 100%. And I know all these people, I can't stand these trolls. I gotta put on my glasses, the deepfakes. Oh yeah, bunch of deepfake bots. Where are these bots from? Where are they from? Hold on.
Azerbaijan and Albania.
That's where the bots are from?
Azerbaijan and Albania.
Your brain's cooked.
I would say so, Joe. Losing faith in the proletariat. Yeah, the American proletariat is not much faith to be had. We need a spark. Banger t-shirt. Thank you. Azerbaijan. These are my new shirts. Link down below. My new shirts. Because I see too many MAGAs grifting for like nothing. If you weren't here earlier, this guy Chris Yoon wants you to support him. I only came across this dude's video because I was looking up how Trump got tricked by an AI video of himself. And Chris Yoon said this.
Trump is a master 5D chess player.
Really? You're just... Oh, these people. Really? Do a lot of people call very smart people 5D chess players? Or is that something you only hear when people are trying to overemphasize the grift? But this dude who left the U.S., moved to Korea, is asking his followers to fund his living costs, education, salaries, miscellaneous, and he wants $10,000 to give back. An absolute grifter on YouTube. These people are heinous, absolute grifter. So instead I said, you know what? Let's give the people something they can support. Save the earth, tax billionaires. Underneath it says, if they can't afford it, maybe they're living outside their means. And then tax wealth, not work. And there's little secrets on the back too, but I'm not going to show you that. All right, let's get into it. The woke right. How the woke right replaced the woke left. Very interesting article. I had heard this when I was listening to my newsman, R.M. Brown.
Watch me cook on this one.
And he does cook, man. R.M. Brown.
But I thought that was funny.
I always think he's funny. And if you don't watch R.M. Brown, you're missing out. This article, it's behind a paywall. I don't know why they have the all-new Lincoln Navigator paying them if they're going to keep this behind a paywall. But it's a fascinating look at how there's a woke right now. we'll just go through some of this. So, you know, when the right wing, the alt-right people got all upset because people were saying, you know, people were trying to correct the words master bedroom, breastfeeding, manpower, brown bag lunch. They wanted people to start saying primary bedroom, chest feeding, workforce, and sack lunch, which, by the way, none of those things have stuck. It's amazing at how trite these arguments are. It's like, what the are you guys arguing over? Whether you're trying to get people to say from manpower to workforce, waste of time, right? George Carlin even talked about this. Like, they're just words, guys. They're just sticks and stones. And when I say that, I mean both sides. Because not only is the movement to get people to change these, like master bedroom to primary bedroom, but it's hilarious at the reaction to it. How people get so, how dare you make me change my words? It's like, you don't have to. Remember? You don't have to.
Legalize comedy.
We legalize comedy in this world where
Everything's computer.
it is. Everything is. So this article talks about, you know, someone might be inadvertently offended, and that's really what this is. You know, people wanted to change some of the language, and the right's reaction was like, well, what if I inadvertently offend someone? My whole ego would be shattered because I don't know how to apologize. That is like Trump's MO right there. He cannot say sorry. He's never said sorry. The only person he wished well was Ghislaine Maxwell, and he's always right. That's why he has this hat that says Trump was right about everything, because he'll never say sorry. So really the reaction to this, where we get the woke right, is because they were so scared that they would offend somebody and that person would want them to apologize, which A, you don't have to, and B, if you don't care, if you're the F your feelings crowd, like, who can say whatever you want? It's still America. But this is also an insight to how they see things. They saw people saying, don't say master bedroom, say primary bedroom, which no one does, by the way. And they thought, hey, that's what we want to do. We want to control your language. How dare you woke left control the language when we want to? In certain industries and professions, wrong speak had a tangible consequence. Ooh. In 2018, Twitter, well, we don't even need to read this because, again, Twitter is now X and it's run by a Nazi. Trump, this is interesting. This is how old this article is. Donald Trump promised that his election would free Americans from ever having to worry about saying the wrong thing again. Oh.
Legalize comedy.
Oh my God.
Your brain's cooked.
Can I just speak to the people who thought that a presidential campaign, or thought, if you believed him when he said, if you elect me, you'll never have to worry about saying the wrong thing again. I just want you to think like what that looks like in real life. You know, I know he even signed an executive order titled Restoring Freedom of Speech and Ending Federal Censorship. But now that we're in the future, we can look back and we saw his FCC threaten Jimmy Kimmel because they didn't like him joking about Donald Trump. How could a president make you not worry? And do you even hear the language he's using? That you don't have to worry about saying the wrong thing. So electing a guy maybe emboldens you to be a dick? Is that what it is? You can just be a jerk and don't have to worry because the guy in the White House says a bunch of bad words? Because I want you to think about this just long and hard for 30 seconds. I don't want you to hurt your brain. But we have this thing called the First Amendment. You know what? Never mind. We got the First Amendment. No president's going to write a 0 amendment. The 1A amendment. It's just a little better. The A1 amendment. Even though he has ketchup on his steaks. So then it goes, the pervasive and nitpicky control of language is crucial, but far from the sole component of the woke right movement. The antithesis on the left, the woke right, places identity grievance. That's why you see like we're being replaced. That's identity grievance, ethnic consciousness, and tribal striving at the center of its behavior and thought. It's just racist. One of the best descriptions I could find comes from Kevin DeYoung, a pastor and seminary professor, 2022 article called "The Rise of Right-Wing Wokeism." I can't read because the chat borrows liberally from the playbook of the left. That's what we'll get from that because I can't read with the chat there. Another hallmark of wokeness is overriding impulse to contest and revise the historical record in service of contemporary debates. Remember when all the Republicans got mad about the 1619 project and that triggered them into taking over the schools? Even, did you guys hear when this guy, the amateur, I wouldn't even call him amateur, I would say like not a historian, Darryl Cooper, caused an uproar when he made the case on Tucker Carlson's podcast that Winston Churchill was the real villain of World War II. You know, Winston Churchill instead of Hitler. Anyways. Who is this saying it? I think he goes on to say, we're all tempted to be polite, but complicity in the pronoun game is the opening ante for the entire lie. Once you agree to falsify reality, you've signaled your submission to the gender cult. That is so funny, because that is like a hyper-sensitive reaction to just addressing someone by the pronouns they want. You know what I mean? And the most hilarious thing is just what's up next, where they're saying, oh, you be complicit in the pronoun game. If you dare say, whatever pronouns they want, then you're submitting to the gender cult. If that statement isn't an admission to who these people are, I don't know what is, because soon after, they changed the Gulf of Mexico to the Gulf of America. And if you didn't submit to that, then you weren't in the cult. Do you see how the woke right works? You can't, they're saying, oh my God, how dare anybody ask us to use the pronouns that they prefer, but you better call it the Gulf of America. And what do you know? Where is it? Is it in this one or the next one? Oh, here we go. Google and Apple have both relabeled the Gulf of Mexico on their map app with Trump's risible neologism. And at least a dozen, and NPR found at least a dozen of the largest U.S. companies have deleted some or all references to DEI. Isn't that interesting? How the people who complained about words and submitting to the gender cult are also the ones that are, forcing you to do the same thing. I would say these people on the right are not woke in the true sense of the term, and understanding the structure is rigged against you, that it benefits the wealthy, that when banks need to be bailed out, they'll get bailed out. But when farmers do, they won't. When Argentina and Javier Milei need $20 billion, at the drop of a hat, they won't even think twice. They will send your tax money there in a heartbeat. But when there's farmers in Arkansas saying, for generations, we've run this, we voted for you, we did everything we could, we love you, we forgot about the Epstein files, all that, they will plead and beg with their petty tyrant emperor who wears no clothes, and he just ignores them. Even though he could turn around and go, you want that socialism now? I thought we called it socialism when the government helped people. No, the farmers don't care. Call it socialism. Just save our farms. But no, they won't. That is the true definition of woke. Understanding that this system, the reason they keep giving tax cuts to the rich, and they keep raising your taxes, and they keep allowing these corporations. I was reading about Kamala. She was going to put in a price gouging protection program. And I thought, how interesting is that, to rewatch Kamala campaigning for a price gouging protection. So these corporations couldn't price gouge against us or to profit off us, especially in tough times. And here we are sitting with eggs. Groceries just are insanely expensive now. And I talked to everyone about this. And nobody's been like, no, the price of groceries is fine. I'm doing great. In fact, there are polls and many polls saying how many people are stressed about groceries. And I thought, how interesting. Donald Trump just let these companies have a free-for-all while he helped embolden them under the guise and cover of tariffs. While there was another lady who was like, we should be protecting the consumers, the workers, from price gouging. And how that really is the woke right cult. That is what's going on. Because for all the people who said, I'm not going to use your pronouns, but we're getting rid of DEI and you better call it the Gulf of America. You're just hypocrites. You're just hypocrites. Oh, sorry. This was the end of the article. But hopefully, if you can slip through the paywall, which I never advocate for that. I'm no pirate.
It's a trap.
That's what they say.
Do it.
But if you can find a way around the paywalls,
Do it.
I'd suggest rereading it, because I showed it to you once. We don't support PDF files here, Caroline NYC. You might love and support your local or national or federal PDF file, but here we don't. We don't take too kindly to what these men do to women of an uncertain age, as they once said. As Michael Wolff once documented for Congress, because this guy, Jeff Epstein, showed Michael Wolff Polaroids that he had to take out of a safe of this guy with what he said were topless girls of an uncertain age. So we don't support that here. I think that was all the news, but maybe it wasn't. Some of these people are like, what do you say, Joe, about these people? What do you say?
Your brain's cooked.
Yeah. I'd like to play a poem for you, read by Joe Polio Rogan. It's a poem written by our president to his best friend in the world, Jeff Epstein.
Enigmas never age. Have you noticed that? And Jeffrey, as a matter of fact, it was clear to me the last time I saw you.
Kat, how do we get that POS out of office? Well, unfortunately, you got to vote, but hopefully we can get a class-conscious movement. That's what I'm calling the clothing. Class-conscious movement where we can get enough people to recognize the hypocrisy of this small little minority majority in the woke right, the people that don't want to use the words you'd request. Hey, force you to use their words. But he's almost 80, so, we all shuffle loose this mortal coil at some point. Okay, guys. That's it. Hit subscribe, hit the notification bell. Much love.